Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome. So today I want to talk about hidden fears. So, we all have them, and sometimes people, ask me, "Oh, what should I be working on?" And it's like, well, whatever's in front of you right now. I've talked about that before. Whatever's bothering you. So, I think I think for a while now, most people that are, interested in improving themselves have gone within to some degree, right? And sometimes when we go within, we find things, fears and resentments and things like that we need to deal with. And that's great. I did that many years ago, and I've done it many times since. But sometimes there's hidden fears, right? That we just don't really know what they are. And I'll preface this by saying a lot of times we don't really need to know what they are to release the energy that's attached to them. Especially if we've already learned the intellectual and conceptual lessons from the trapped energy from a previous experience. So basically, when we're, the way it works is we experience something, our brain processes it in a particular way, and it generates a particular emotion within us. So if it's something we don't like, it generates negative emotion, and generally we stuff that. If it's something we do like, it generates positive emotion, and we often allow ourselves to feel that, at least to some degree. And even if it's stuff that's not that it's not as big of a problem as stuffing negative energy. Stuff negative energy is going to come out at one point or another. If you're stuffing some happiness energy, well, then some happiness will come out every once in a while. Not really a huge problem. But if you're stuffing negative energy, then it's going to come out one way or another. And that's what causes a lot of our problems. So I wanted to discuss this stuff. So if, let's say we had 5 incidences or 10 that were trying to teach us a particular lesson. And then we had, let's say over a 20-year period. And then 5 years ago, you go through something, you might do a deep dive or have an epiphany, and you work through and integrate the lesson you were supposed to get out of those 10 experiences. So basically, you've done the most important part already because you've learned from it. You've grown from it, right? Now, there still might be trapped energy within us that's attached to some of those instances. Maybe some of it released probably when you had the epiphany, but maybe not all of it. So this is what I mean by we might have trapped energy. We often do have trapped energy based on other things that it would behoove us to release, but we've kind of already gotten a lesson. We just haven't allowed the energy to be felt and released. So I say all that to say it's not always required, and it's definitely not necessary to fully understand or to be consciously aware of the reason why you trap the energy that you're releasing. Of course, some more often than not, it's beneficial because then you get the intellectual and conceptual lesson that you can grow from. But if you've already grown through that, then it's really not necessary. Or if you you have a ton of it built up, maybe you don't need all of it to still learn the lesson. So we don't always know what the trapped negative energy is attached to, and we don't always need to know. If we need to know, then we'll know. I mean, what's God going to do? Be like, well, like this person would really learn if they had conscious awareness as around this negative experience, but I'll let them feel the negative experience, but I'm not going to let them know what it is. It'll just be our little secret. Like why would a loving God do that? So I don't believe a loving God would. So I believe that if we need to know, if we are open to hearing or having conscious awareness about whatever this trapped energy is there for, we will know. You pay attention to the thoughts going through you. Ask, what's this about? And see if you hear anything. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. So that's kind of an overview. I wanted to come in on the energy end of it. And like I believe that we're all really trying to become better people, and we know that love is the way, and kindness and happiness and compassion are the right things, and like we're very, very, most people are very, very aware of that. Of course, there are some people that are completely inundated with selfishness and acquisition and stepping on other people and all that stuff, and those people have nothing to do with us. We don't have to worry about them. We are the dominions of our own space. We are sovereign beings. So we just need to take care of ourselves, which is kind of what I preach a lot. And one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast, because we have to, I believe that everybody is really, not everybody, most people are really trying to better themselves. And there's a lot of dysfunction in the external world that's drawing our attention to it. And as long as our attention is on those things, then we're not doing the work that we need to be doing. Okay. So let me explain this a little bit before you come to your own conclusions. I want to explain what I mean by this. So there's this parable about this monk that goes out in a rowboat, and he goes out in the middle of a lake to meditate. He just wants quiet and peace. And he goes out there and he lays down in the rowboat and he's meditating, and everything's all peaceful, quiet, still, and it's just beautiful. And then all of a sudden, bang, feels this, something slams into his boat, and he's like, what the heck is that? And he's angry. So he gets up and looks, and it's an empty boat that was just floating across the lake and happened to bump into him. And so, and he's angry, but now he doesn't have any person to be angry with. It was nobody's real fault, but yet he still experienced anger. So he comes back in, and he's telling his whatever superior friend, other monk, about his experience. And the other monk said, well, that just means that you need to do some work on releasing the anger inside of yourself. And the monk was like, well, why do you feel that I have anger inside of me? He said, because that's what came out when something unexpected happened. Anger came out. How can anger come out if it's not inside of you? Right. So and then I actually heard a more updated version of this mentality, this parable. And it was basically it said, if you're walking and you're holding a cup that's close to full of something, and somebody bumps into you and the liquid spills out of the cup, what's going to come out of the cup? What are you going to spill? And they said, whatever's in the cup. If you have water in the cup and somebody bumps into you, then water is going to come out of the cup. If you have coffee inside the cup and somebody bumps into you, then coffee is going to come out of the cup. Okay, so whatever is inside of you is what comes out when you are triggered or poked or pushed. If you are filled with love, then love is going to come out of you. If you are, and now, just to be clear, of course, if something physically hurts, let's say, like if somebody punched you, it might be a natural instinct to feel anger, right? Because that is most likely there to push you into fight or flight to defend yourself. It could be a physically life-threatening situation. So just naturally we can go to that, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about if you are in physical danger. That's different. What I'm talking about is emotionally, our emotions, that we have control over. Like this, we are walking around feeling we have the right to get angry whenever somebody says something that we don't like, or many people are. And that's a problem. Like we actually believe it's our right and even appropriate and possibly our duty to get angry at things that we don't like, which is absurd because it doesn't help us. Getting angry doesn't help us deal with things. We don't deal with things well out of anger. So the we make these judgments, like if the store is out of something that we wanted, well, then why didn't they order more? And we're angry and we're upset. We're irritable. We shouldn't be getting upset over that. Somebody on the other side of the world doing something that we disagree with, we don't have to get angry. We cannot like it. We can stand up against it, or I shouldn't say stand up against it because that's wrong energetically, but we can stand up for the solution. But getting angry doesn't solve anything. It doesn't do anything. So most people feel that it's their right to get angry and it's an appropriate response to something that they don't like, which is untrue. It doesn't benefit the situation. Getting angry doesn't benefit. Half the country, 3/4 of the country in the United States is angry about something. Is that fixing anything? No, anger is not solution based. It just lashes out with more anger, right? So a lot of times, we have a hard time looking within. And yes, even people on a spiritual path. And yes, even me sometimes. Not even me, like, oh my God, I mean, including me. Sometimes I'm looking and I know that there's something inside of me that's off, but I can't figure out what it is. And this is when I saw things the way I'm explaining in this podcast, it gave me another tool. It enhanced my way of looking at things. So if I'm, because like I'm detaching more and more from the external, because I'm not or what most people consider the external problems, the external difficulties in the paradigm that's falling apart. I'm just disconnecting more and more and more, because I'm not trying to fix that. I don't think it can be fixed or it should be fixed. I think it's rotten to its core and broken, so I want it to fall apart. I need to focus my energy on building a new paradigm, right? So how can I focus my energy on building a new paradigm based in love if I'm getting irritated about all these other things that I'm seeing? Right. And as long as I think it's my right to get upset and I should be getting upset and it's appropriate to get upset, then I'm going to get upset. And as long as I'm upset and that's drawing my energy over to the problems, then I'm not focusing on the solution. So how do I disconnect from all this stuff and focus on the solution and building a new paradigm based in love? Well, I have to deal with what's inside of me. So, what I realized is, as I'm going through my own process of this, I'm less and less concerned. I am less and less bothered with or angered by the dysfunction going on in the external world. The more I'm at peace in my heart. The more peace I have in my heart, the less that stuff bothers me when I hear it. But I mean angers. It doesn't mean that I suddenly agree with what's going on, or I think it's a good idea what's going on, or I have no compassion for the people that are suffering because of what's going on. That's not what it means. It means that I'm not internally upset. I'm not internally angry. So when you look at that, why? Why? It's because whatever is in my cup is going to spill out when something knocks me. When something comes up into my awareness that's negative, if I'm filled with anger, anger is going to spill out. It's going to be my natural response. If I'm filled with peace, peace is going to bubble up. It's going to be my natural response. Why? Because that's what's inside of me. That's why. That's what I'm functioning from. I'm functioning from love. I'm functioning from peace. So when something comes up that I don't like, I can go directly, instead of anger, I could go directly into compassion. I could go directly into understanding. I could go directly into levels of sympathy. Empathy. I could go into solution-based responses. How can I help this situation? But I'm not driven by the anger. I'm driven by love. I'm experiencing love. I'm feeling love. I'm responding in love. I'm not responding in anger. And we think, I think this is the part that we need to really get clear on, because like I said, when something bad happens and we respond in anger, we're like, and somebody like me says, like, oh, there's anger inside of you that you need to work through. People get very defensive, and it's like, no, I'm supposed to be angry. If you're not angry, there's something wrong with you. It's like, okay, that's a good time to end the conversation. Because they're not ready, or they're not capable at that particular time to hear what I'm talking about. It's often better to do this when you're not in the middle of feeling anger. Grasp the concept and then try to bring it into your life. So if this is, I truly believe that this is a cornerstone to our creating a new paradigm. We need to be interacting with life in different ways. Well, how can we do that? The only way we can do anything, and that is to take care of the energy inside of us. It's the only thing we have control over. We don't have control over what's going on in the world. And it's not a replacement for taking action externally. it actually enhances your ability to take action externally, because the action that you take is going to be based in love. This is how Martin Luther King Jr. did his stuff. This is how Gandhi did his stuff. Like, I just saw a quote. This just popped in. I just saw a quote this morning from, I believe it was Gandhi, or it might have been last night. Anyway, within the last 24 hours, I just saw a quote, and it said something like, if you lose your patience, you lost the battle. And I think it was Gandhi that said it. If you lose your patience, you lost the battle. Because you gave in to anger. You're no longer standing in love. Anger isn't love. It's two different energies. Your intentions can be good that are fueling your anger, but that doesn't turn it into love. Now, when we're functioning out of love, it's just no matter what's coming at you, it's a love response. And then it diminishes the anger. Normally, what we do is the anger comes up, or the hatred, and then we match it with anger and hatred, and then we wonder why it's expanding in the globe. Well, that's why, because most people think exactly what I just explained, that anger is the appropriate response to hatred or other anger. I think that's the way to do it. That's the way to handle it. So it's not. It just brings more anger into the world. So that this hidden fear, anger, frustration, anything that we would deem as negative is a version of fear. So this is why I entitled the podcast Hidden Fears, because like I said a few minutes ago, if I see something negative and I get upset, that's fear. If I get upset, it's fear-based. Now it's manifesting as anger or frustration, whatever, but those are versions of fear. So it's fear within me that's hidden, that's being triggered and activated. So if I can release that fear and fill myself with love, then when it comes in, then when I get triggered again, or something captures my attention, all of a sudden I respond out of love, out of empathy, out of compassion, out of understanding, out of solution. Oh, how can we? Oh, you're very upset. Well, what can we do to make it so you're not upset? I love you. I don't want you to be upset. I care about you. I don't want you to be upset. When we start meeting people with that energy, that's what's going to, and situations with that energy, that's when we're going to come to the solutions. It's the same thing Nelson Mandela did. As long as he had hatred for his oppressors, he wasn't able to make any ground. But when he forgave and opened up his heart and landed in love, then he went and had conversations. The words he chose were different. He was solution-based. He was love-based. And then all of a sudden it worked. Same with Gandhi. Same with Martin Luther King Jr. See, this is how it works historically. So if you are getting, this is kind of the snapshot. Like this is the little sound bite that kind of sparked this podcast. Is if things in the world are bothering you, negative things are triggering anger inside of you, that means you have to go within and work on this fear that you have inside. That's what it means. It's because we are only capable of taking care of ourselves, and our attention is constantly drawn externally. Well, that's the problem. This particular person in politics is the problem. This particular entity is the problem. This particular person is the problem. It's always outside of us, and we have no control over that stuff. We're never going to find peace there. We're never going to better the world trying to fix other people. Now, when people come to you for help and they're actually capable of receiving it, which just because they come to you doesn't mean they're capable, then cool, you can try to help them. But I mean, as a general rule, 99% of what we have control over is just us. Well, 100% of what we have control over is us. Sometimes we can benefit other people too, but by our actions and things like that. But what do we actually have control over? Us. We don't have control over. I could do a wonderful thing. Like my son and I built a little bathroom for the school up here in the mountains a couple of years ago. Somebody could go knock it down or something. I don't have control over that. Right? So I don't have, the only thing I actually have control, I did it, or we did it, and not just us. A lot of people, donated some money to help that come to fruition. But we did that, and it was a good thing, and it came to fruition. But it doesn't mean we don't have control over it. It could be gone tomorrow, right? So the only thing we have control over, what I mean, is our internal self. This is why it's like one of my pet peeves is when I post stuff on social media and people go, yeah, if only the rest of the world thought like this, or yes, if more people thought like you, or yes, I wish the world was like this. It's like, oh, you're missing the point. Like I'm saying it for you to implement in your life, because that's all you have control over. And what they do immediately is they just they don't look at themselves. They just go, oh yeah, I'm wonderful. I just wish everybody else was as wonderful as I am. I don't actually have the work to do, but boy, if more people thought like me, we'd live in a good world, because I'm just that good. It's like, no, that wasn't the point of the post. That's never the point of anything that I ever say, ever. It's always for us to go within. Like, this is my job. I'm supposed to be talking to you and sharing insights. But I don't sit there, like me doing this podcast for 10 years, writing a book, working with all these clients. Like, do you know what I do with profound statements of spiritual insight? Do you know what I do with them? I do my best to implement them into my life. And do I try to share them with you so you hear them and you get exposed to them too, and maybe you'll implement them in your life? Yeah, absolutely. It's because it's my job, but it's not because I think I'm going to control you people, or I'm going to change you people. I have no attachment to an outcome. I have no idea who's going to be listening to this. I have no idea if they're going to hear it the right way. I have no idea if they're going to actually implement it. I have no idea. I'm just throwing it out there, man. Like, if some of you pick it up and integrate it, then then wonderful. And millions of people have listened to my podcast. If a few do it here and there, wonderful. It's worth it. But I don't have an illusion that I have control over what you do. The only thing I have control over is what I do. It's it. How I process information, how I feel inside, how I respond to situations. That's the only thing I have control over. And it's the only thing you have control over. How you respond to situations, how you feel inside, what gets spilled out of your cup. It's the only thing you have control over. So stop looking at the rest of the world and its dysfunction and wishing people were more loving like you, and start doing more work on yourself. If anger is spilling out, that means you're filled with anger. And anger is a version of fear. So that's hidden fears. So like, if people are going like, no, I think I'm doing pretty good. Everything in the external world really angers me, but I think I'm good. It's like, well, then you're not doing that good. See, that's how I saw it. I saw it as my litmus test that I'm trying to share with you guys. And if you resonate with it, cool. If not, cool. But my litmus test is, this is just, it was a different way of looking at it that I found beneficial. So I wanted to share it with you guys. So I go, oh, look, that got me upset. Well, that must mean, that I have upset inside of me. Why? Because I got upset. Okay, so I need to work through that. I need to focus on bringing love. So what's the solution, right? What does it look like if some of you go, oh, okay, I get your concept, Glenn. I get it. Like if things irritate me or anger me, that means that, my cup is filled with anger and anger is spilling out. That's not a good thing. I can't control the external circumstance, but I can control how I respond to it. So how do I do that, Glenn? How do I become more loving? How do I become less filled with fear? Even hidden fears that I don't know are there. How do I do that? Well, starve what you don't want and feed what you want. That's the general rule. Now, I'll throw in another little tool. Hey, if something specific angers you and you can go in and reframe the way you look at it, so you or other people aren't victims and it doesn't generate fear, well, then cool. And you can release that. That's more for the stuff that you're conscious of. You know what's causing it. So therefore you can do the reframe on what's causing it. And since you're so aware, you can release the energy from it. I'm talking about more of the hidden fears. That's why this is called hidden fears. So it's more general. We might not even know what they are. So in that case, then we can't do that because we're not really aware. These are the hidden fears. So starve the fear and feed the love. Become more loving. Become closer to your source. So I'm going to take this one step deeper now. All right. So where does fear come from? It comes from separation from source. It comes from a disconnect from our truth. Knowing that we are eternal, we are loved, we are fully supported, and we are in the arms of God, then we're not fearful, right? Because we're in the arms of a loving God. We feel completely safe. And this is what we all long for. Not feeling safe is a catalyst for just about everything negative. Okay, everything. Everything negative. Why do I say that? Because not feeling safe is what incites fear. Fear is the basis for all negative. It's the foundational energy for all negative emotions. So if I feel safe, then I'm not scared. If I'm not scared, then I don't have fear, and it doesn't manifest in energies of anger and frustration and defensiveness. It doesn't do that. Why? Because I don't have it. Why don't I have it? Because I'm anchored in safety. That's why I feel safe. This is the work that we need to do. We can't change the world without changing ourselves. I just heard this, I think yesterday too. It might have been Sadhguru. Said, if you can't have peace in your mind, how are you going to bring peace to the world? Like, you can't even bring it into your own mind. This is what we need to focus on. Like, this, hell, I'm part of the New Age spiritual movement, but the longer I'm in it, the more I see it stalling and not doing what it's intended to, even though we have all these beautiful intentions. That's why I do a lot of the podcast, because I see all you wonderful people doing all these wonderful things with all these wonderful intentions. And it's just, and we're trying to change the world. I saw it in recovery, where I started. It's like, people get sober and they have these epiphanies and they have these spiritual awakenings and they feel all this love inside. And what do they want to do? They want to run out and do an 8th or a 9th step. They want to go to apologize to people and clear their side of the street. And it's to purge this guilt that they're feeling and all this stuff. And it sounds really good, right? But like, when I was in, sponsoring people and taking groups through the steps and stuff, a lot of what I did was pull people back. Whoa. The steps are in order. You need to clean you out fully. You need to take, a fearless moral inventory of yourself. You need to go through all your resentments, all your fears, all your harms done to others. Like, you have to go through all that stuff. Then you have to talk to another human being about them. And then you have, which is steps 4 and 5. Then you have to do 6. Then you have to do 7. Then you can start preparing to do your 8th. And then you can go do your 9th, which is actually making the amends. Like, it's a process, and the process is outlined to clear you out first, to get you anchored into a place of love, and then you go bring it to the world. But in the New Age spirituality, this desire to serve others is so strong, which is a wonderful thing. I mean, I know it's love-based and I know its intentions are good, but we're out there skipping over the work we need to do to try to help the world. And it's not working. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're going out there trying to do good, sure, it makes a difference, but you're making about a 5 or 10% difference where you could make a 90% difference. Like, it's because your energy isn't clear. You're not doing it from love. It's your intentions are good, but most of what you're doing is from anger or frustration or disgust in what's going on in the world. It's not the right energy, and it's not that powerful, and it's not doing that much. We have to stop. Just because we had an epiphany or a series of spiritual awakenings, and we want to go, oh my God, I want to go help people. Well, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful intention. And you can even start right away helping people in certain ways, but that can't be a diversion from your own work. And I know people think they're doing their work. They went to 3 drum circles last week. Or last month, and and 2 sound healings, and that's not really the work, right? So we need a better litmus test, is kind of my point of all that. The litmus test is, if anything outside of you is angering you, then there's work that you need to do. We've played around with spirituality long enough. I mean, me included. Really, if I look at me, I mean, I understand that like, my brain is logical, right? My book is called Down to Earth. I'm very grounded. I have grounded energy. So a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, I'm grounding them just talking to them. I'm grounding people when I'm talking to them out in public. It's just something that I do. So I'm very grounded. And that's wonderful in certain aspects. But it's always a balance between groundedness in our reality as a spiritual being having a human experience. That's the grounded aspect of it. We're having a human experience. We have to balance that with our spiritual connectedness. So I need to enhance that spiritual connectedness. So like, which I'm putting effort into doing more. So I was watching, a couple teachers that I know. And a couple shows that I know, spiritual stuff. And the people that I look up to and the perspectives that I use as a catalyst towards my own growth. When I see somebody behaving in a particular way that I go, wow, that's really, I'd like to behave more like that. Like they really get it. They're living it. They're speaking it. Like I can feel the love that they have and how they interact. Now, I'm sure behind closed doors, they're not perfect, but I think that they probably embody Christ consciousness, love, better than I do in the external world. Most people that meet me, like, depending on if spirituality doesn't come up, then most people that meet me just think I'm a regular guy. Just by that, I mean, not particularly spiritual. They don't get that vibe from me right off. They might be like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, but they're not like, oh, that's one of those spiritual people. And, that was kind of unconsciously most of the time, and sometimes consciously, my intention. I like to stay grounded. I like to connect with other people where they are. I don't like people putting me on a pedestal. So all that staying grounded stuff all help that. But like, the longer I'm on this, and when I'm honest with myself and I'm not looking externally and I'm looking more internally, it's like, man, if we're going to create a whole new paradigm and really live the way we really say we want to live, we got to do things differently. We got to stop worrying about if people see us spiritually or we connect with everybody, and just let ourselves be judged, which I'm pretty good at that type of stuff as a general rule. I don't really care if people judge me, but it's still, if I'm honest with myself, it still has had an effect on how I speak, how I present myself, stuff like this. And the people that I really respect they interact with spirituality in spiritual ways, which is love-based, I mean, all the time. They're practicing gratitude all the time. Like if they're going to eat something, they express gratitude for the food. If they're going to drink something, they express gratitude for the drink. If, when they wake up in the morning, they express gratitude for their life. They practice self-love. Like all the time. Like that's their life, and I know not everybody is going to be ready for that right now. And if you're not, that's fine. But I guess what I would say is that type of stuff, really embodying love and interacting with love, that's what's going to change the world. Not our intentions. Another thing I saw a while ago, the smallest act of love is 10 times more powerful than the best intention, or 1,000 times more powerful than the best intention. I forgot who said that, but it's true. We're trying to bring good out into the world, and that's a good intention, but it's not nearly as powerful as being the light you wish to see. Being the light. Just emanating, just being a lighthouse, man. So when there's a ship in danger, it's looking for you and it can find you. just emanating that light, emanating the love. You know what makes a difference is like when you're upset at a store because they won't refund you for an item or something. I'm just trying to come up with a everyday life situation, right? Something that upsets you. Like, you know what makes a difference is when you go to a store, in that situation, you go to refund something and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Well, we can't, the policy is that we can't refund you. And then all of a sudden you get upset, right? When the other person looks at you and goes, well, it's not my fault. I mean, what do you want me to do? I don't make the policies. Geez, don't get pissed at me. Like, that is basically the world in which we live. And what we need is more people that when somebody goes, oh, this is ridiculous, you should take this refund. We need more people to stand there and go, you know what? I understand your frustration. The policy says we can't, but I understand your frustration. Let me see if there's anything that I can do, because I'm going to do anything that I can. I can't change policy, but I'm going to go talk to my manager. I'm going to do anything that I can possibly do to help you out in this situation. That's what we need. We don't need defensiveness. We need to be that person. When somebody doesn't hold a door for you and you go, jerk, we don't need you. We don't need more people like that. What we need is when somebody doesn't hold the door for you, for the person for you to go, oh, wow, okay, maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they're caught up in their head. I'm going to send them some peace and love. That's what we need. There's all kinds of dysfunction in the world. And if we match it with dysfunction, it expands. If we match it with love, it disintegrates and minimizes. But how can we do that? How can we do that in this world filled with negative triggers and sparks and all this negativity going on in the world and all these difficulties? How could we possibly do that? By building the love inside of us. That's how. That is our project. That is our responsibility. That's the only thing we have control over. So going to yoga class a couple times a week and meditating for 10 minutes every morning, and then walking around like we're the good ones on earth because we listened to Glenn's podcast a couple times, that's not enough. I'm sorry. It's just not enough. Unless that's all you needed to do to interact with the world, with life situations, with love. If you're capable of interacting, authentic love, not lying, not people pleasing, not pretending that it didn't bother you when inside it actually did bother you and playing the martyr, none of that stuff. I'm talking real love. And I'm really starting to experience it more, and it's a beautiful thing. It's when I saw one of my favorite teachers at the end of his movie, and he went, some of you will know who this is. And he looks in the camera and he goes, sometimes people come at me just attacking and vicious and hurt and upset. And I just love them. I just love them. They don't have the power to cut themselves out of my heart. They don't have that power. No matter what they do, no matter how they come at me, they don't have the power to cut themselves out of my heart. And my God, it's the first time I saw him say that. It's Michael Beckwith. The first time I saw him say that, I was just like, I was floored because I was looking in his eyes and feeling his energy as he said that at the end of his movie. And I could feel the love just emanating out of him. And I'm like, if there's one simple ideology that I want to aspire to, it's that. I want to be that. I want to be able to do that. Not there yet, but I'm working on it. And this is, I think, what we all have to work on. Is, you know, with the spirituality and the age of information, we can just take courses endlessly. We can listen to podcasts endlessly. We can read books endlessly. And we actually fool ourselves into thinking that we're growing, and we're really not, because we're barely implementing anything. We're just taking in knowledge, and it feels good. So we're like, oh, I must be growing. No, you're just storing information. You're just like a database. That's all. You know, so let's have a better litmus test to whether we're growing or whether we're not growing. And that is how we interact with life, how we interact with difficult people, how we interact with difficult situations. If we can react out of love and it becomes our norm, then we're actually ushering in a new paradigm, because that's what we need. That's what the new paradigm is built out of. And if we don't have anybody doing it, we just have a bunch of people running around saying, I stand for love. I stand for love. I don't like this political person. I don't like the fact that this is happening in the world because I stand for love. That does very, very, very little. Very little. It's so little that it ain't going to change the world. Definitely will not. But if we have more and more people just walking through society, holding doors for people, spreading love, when anger comes at them, love comes up. You know, like, and this is nothing new. You know, I've talked before about a teacher that I had in high school where, you know, I had a bad reputation. By the time I got my first day in high school, all the teachers were calling me out. And it was my first day there because they talked to the other teachers in town at junior high. So I had a really bad reputation. And when I got caught cheating in this class, and this teacher, instead of attacking me and going, you, Glenn, you cheated, got caught, and you're in trouble, instead of coming at me like that, like most of them did, you know, he went, Glenn, you know what? I can't figure out for the life of me why you would cheat on your work. I mean, you're obviously extremely intelligent and capable of doing it. So could you just maybe explain to me, because I just don't understand. Like, why would you cheat? His energy was loving. It wasn't attacking. And it blew me away. It blew me away. I could feel the energy. And it changed me. Not totally. It changed me for his class, though. That was towards the beginning of the year. And he just said, and I was like, I don't know. I don't, you know, because I didn't really know. I just didn't feel like doing the work, I guess. And I thought it was easier to cheat. So I just copied somebody else's, you know, whatever. I never did any work in school anyway, you know, any other class. I never did homework or anything. Please. So, but in his class, after he approached me with the loving energy, he went, oh, all right. You know, well, could you do me a favor? And now I'm open to hearing what his favor is, you know? And he's like, could you just maybe promise me that, you know, you're not going to cheat in my class anymore for the rest of the year? Yeah. All right. Okay, great. Thank you. And we walked back in class, and he took me out of class. He didn't do it in front of the rest of the class to try to embarrass me, which most teachers did, you know? So I was like, but it's so profound. You know, I was like 16 years old. That was like 40 years ago. I still remember it because he met me with a different energy. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. It was the energy. He wasn't attacking. He wasn't coming back at me angry. I did something I shouldn't do. So by the way the rest of the world processes things, he was supposed to be angry with me. I was making his job more difficult. But he didn't come at me with anger. He came at me with love. You know, somewhere along, and I'm going to boil down to this, somewhere along the way, we've decided that two wrongs make a right. I don't know why we've decided this, but that's the basis for how most people interact with life. Whenever something happens that they don't like, they get angry. Whenever they see something negative, they match it with negativity. They're like, yeah, that's a load of crap. That's not love. Neither are you. Like, you're not love. Not now. That's what we have to change. We have to change. And we're the only ones that can do it inside us. But if I'm doing it and you're doing it and somebody else is doing it, then that means we have 3 more people that all we got to do is interact with them once. Like that teacher. I don't remember having another situation with him that was negative based. I never cheated again, and I don't remember having another one. So that was one interaction that he handled well, and it took care of me, pain in the ass Glenn Ambrose, for the entire school year. I never gave him a hard time. So that affected me dramatically. And he probably did it to other people, right? So that's the ripple effect. If somebody comes at me and I don't interact out of anger, I interact with love instead, all of a sudden they can decompress if they're capable. If they're not, that's okay. I'm not in control of them. I'm not doing this to get a particular result from somebody. I'm doing this to bring more love into the world and be the change that I wish to see, because that's all I have control over. But if I do that, and then you do that, and then somebody else does that, that's 3 of us doing it. And you know how many people we could touch by doing it? Hundreds. Just us 3. But normally instead everybody's going, well, no, we need 100 million, 1,000 billion people doing it, and then we'll change the world. It's this concept, like, we're always focused outside. Just bring it back. Bring it back. It's one person can't make a difference, said 8 billion people. That's why the difference isn't being made, because 8 billion people are standing up going, well, I would do it, but if I did it, it wouldn't make a difference, because there's almost 8 billion people not doing it. So I'm not going to do it. Well, that's a great way to stay stuck forever. It's a great way to design a miserable, suffering world to live in. But if I just don't worry about what the rest is doing and I just do it, and then all of a sudden somebody sees me and they go, wow, that's cool. Or they hear this podcast, they go, wow, that's cool. And then they do it. And then somebody else does it. But don't attach to that. That'll happen on its own and we have no control over it. We just focus on us. So be the love you wish to see in this world. Be it in your daily interactions. When you're looking on social media and that anger comes up, that's time out, stop scrolling, and deal with the anger that's going on inside of you. Release it. Shift. Do your work. And then when you can scroll through social media and not get upset, now you might be getting somewhere. But until then, if you're still getting upset, that means you still got anger in your cup, because that's what's spilling out. All right. So go be the love, peeps. Be the love. And that's going to do it for today.